Beachmont Ford Performance. We're out here in the garage for our next episode of Garage Table Discussion. And you might notice I got this good-looking guy sitting next to me here. Hey, this is Jimmy Dinsmore, a friend of mine. Jimmy is a writer. He writes for Torque News. For Torque News, you mainly focus on Ford products.
For sure.
Yep. And then he also writes for the Dayton Daily News, which is right up the road from us here in Cincinnati, Dayton, Ohio. And he's also an author that has written a book called Mustang by Design, and it's all about Gale Halderman. And if you don't know who Gale Halderman is, you're going to find out. And then you're going to have a new book coming out, too, that we'll talk about. But, Jimmy, thanks for coming in.
Thanks a lot, Jeff.
Yeah, we got you in the garage at the table.
That's right. I appreciate you having me out.
No, well, I'm glad to have you here. I'm lucky that I've got some good friends that are in the local Cincinnati area that we can bring in. So, obviously, you write for the Torque News. Tell us a little bit about that.
So, at Torque News, I mostly focus on Mustang because I've kind of got this reputation of being the Mustang historian now, thanks to the book, which I'm more than happy to kind of be pigeonholed. So I write about the Mustang, Ford performance. I do touch on F-150s a lot. We've actually done a story on some of the performance stuff you guys have had at Beachmont Ford in Torque News as well. So
we like that.
Yes. So I really appreciate the relationship I have with you guys. And I'm always looking for ideas and stuff because I have something daily comes out every day in Torque News.
Fantastic, fantastic. So then somehow or other you ended up writing this book. Give us a little history about Gale and the book.
Sure. So Gale Halderman is the principal designer of the original Mustang. Gale was the designer. It was his design that became the iconic Ford Mustang. His design was chosen by Lee Iacocca. And the fact is, the man lives right just about an hour from where we are at this moment.
Yeah.
People don't realize it. A lot of the Mustang enthusiasts know, but you know, he is absolutely a charm of the Miami Valley. Like, he's a living legend, an automotive legend, and he's already in the Mustang Hall of Fame.
It's really cool for us to live in this area. He has his own museum, and it's just really cool. And when you go up there, if Gale's there, he'll sit and tell stories. And some of the stories are really good. And I know you probably have a lot of those stories in this book.
Yeah.
And let me
sure.
Put the book up here so people can see it.
So yeah, a lot of his stories are in fact in that book. I mean, he worked 40 years at Ford, 40 years. And this is at a time when the axe was sharp and fell a lot. You know, Iacocca didn't make it. Hal Sperlich didn't make it. You know, CEO after CEO is fired. And Gale Halderman works 40 years literally out of college. It was his only job. He never even technically interviewed for that job. Just showed up. He hadn't even graduated college yet. Shows up, interviews, shows his sketches off, and they say, well, you know, when can you start? And that was the start of his, what became legendary, illustrious career.
Well, he obviously was involved in the design of many other vehicles at Ford. One of the things that I thought was fun when I met him was you know, obviously Ford had kind of had a little bit of, I guess, call it a disaster with the Edsel. And so when he brought up this thing about the Mustang, you know, they're like, if this fails, you're gone.
For sure. I mean, a lot of people probably do realize, but Henry Ford II didn't want the Mustang.
Yeah.
I mean, he had no interest in it. They kept pushing it and pushing it. Iacocca pushed it. Hal Sperlich pushed it to the point where basically Henry Ford II said, fine, I will approve your car, but like you said, if it doesn't work, you know, you're out of here. And so Gale had that tremendous burden of designing this vehicle that had to hit all these, you know, it had to have a short deck, a long hood, had to be, you know, exciting, sporty, but had to have mass appeal. And that's why if you think about what the Mustang was when he designed it versus what it is now, like, it really has evolved, but Gale hit everything that they asked for and then more. And the amazing thing, and I tell a lot in the book about this, he designed it at like 11 o'clock at night on his kitchen table because his boss was like, yo, I need that sketch for tomorrow morning's meeting. He's like, I don't have time. He's like, I don't care. I need that sketch tomorrow morning. Yeah. So literally, it was almost like a side project for him. And it became like, you know, the icon of icons.
And a lot of pressure. And then back in those days, you didn't have what's called CAD now, you know, computer assisted design for drawing and everything else. Everything was pretty much his sketches, his hand-drawn
It
sketches.
was, and he actually drew, and this is something I point out a little bit, and some people don't care, but I think it's neat. He drew with what was called a grease pencil. And at that time, nobody at Dearborn, nobody at Ford used a grease pencil. And he learned to draw with a grease pencil at the Dayton Art Institute, where he graduated from. And he kind of became known as that farm boy from Ohio who had his little grease pencil. And even when he got promoted as a director or manager, he would still up on the walls, like he would, pull out his grease pencil and like, hey, why don't you, elongate this and change that? And so the grease pencil was kind of like his thing.
Yeah, he's a fascinating guy. If you're ever in the, it's actually Tip City, Ohio, which is just up the road from us here in the Cincinnati area. And if you're ever in the area, that's a place to visit, that's for sure. How did you meet Gale?
So, through my writing gig at Dayton Daily News, where I review new cars every week, I actually knew someone else who had an advice column in the wheels section of the Dayton Daily News, and his name is Jim Halderman. And he's an ASE certified mechanic, retired automotive professor. And he's kind of been like a mentor in my life, took me under his wings. We immediately hit off a good friendship and everything. And of course, his last name is Halderman. So guess what? He is Gale's first cousin. Okay. And so he's like, you know what? I want to introduce you to my cousin. He designed the Mustang, which I thought, wow, that's really cool. So he introduces Gale and Gale and I just immediately like meshed.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, oh, I read your column every week. You're a great writer. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this guy. And so we just kind of struck up a friendship. We went to, like, I think it was 4 years ago, we went to the Mecum Auto Auction in Indianapolis.
Okay.
Literally, we walked into the building there, and he's got his little, Mustang hat on, and some 16-year-old kid runs up to him, says, "You're Gail Halderman, aren't you?" And I was like, wow. And I mean, the guy was swarmed at the Mecum auction like a rock star. And I thought, you know what, we got to tell this guy's story. So.
Well, what's cool about that is a 16-year-old had enough knowledge about who he was.
Absolutely.
Oh, man, that's great. Yeah, he's got obviously some great stories and the history of the Mustang. So your book, Mustang by Design, how can people get the book?
The best way is just search Mustang by Design on Amazon. It's available now. Hardback. It's a lot of great, interesting photos in there. An assist to John Clore of Ford Performance, who wrote the introduction, and he played an integral role with it as well, providing a lot of his photos from his archive, because I couldn't have really got the book done without his photos.
Well, so if you are a Mustang fan and you'd like to know more about the actual history of the Mustang, right from the horse's mouth, check out Jimmy's book. Now, you have another book that you are working on that will be out, you said end of summer, I think you told me?
Yes, it's late summer, so I guess I'm pigeonholing myself now as a Ford guy, because this is going to be on the history of the F-Series as America's most popular vehicle. We go all the way back to the beginnings in the just post-World War II, where the F-Series started. We touch a little bit on the history prior to that. Just, it's really amazing how the truck has evolved with American society. It started off very basic agricultural, and now, there's these luxury wagons that are like everything you could ever need for your family, plus towing your boat. It truly, I found it really interesting. Of course, I'm a little.
Well, I can tell you that I'm a Mustang guy. Don't get me wrong, but at Beachmont Ford Performance, and I've mentioned this before, we obviously supercharge Mustangs for customers all the time, but the F-150 is now almost taking over as far as the performance bills. We are doing supercharged F-150s right and left with Rouse superchargers and Whipple superchargers. It's amazing.
Well, through my job at the Dayton Daily News, I get about 60 new vehicles a year of all makes and models, all price trims, really affordable to really expensive. And probably in the last 2 years, one of my all-time favorite vehicles I had for the week was the Raptor. And that was to me like, oh my gosh, this is what all trucks should be. You can take it off-road and through the mud and the creek, but then you can blaze people out on the highway as well.
Yes, I agree. It's great. In Ford, if you think about it, the two things you're hitting on, Mustang, been around now over 50 years. That's just unbelievable. And the F-Series, again, always the best-selling truck on the market.
Best-selling vehicle in America.
Well, that's true.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. So, hey, that book will be out end of summer. And what's that book going to be called?
The title is yet to be determined.
Okay, so watch for yet to be determined. When it does come out, obviously, Jimmy, we'll bring it back up again, and we'll probably have you come back in and talk about that book. So I would encourage you, if you have any questions about Jimmy's book or the upcoming book or anything related to the Mustang, the F-150, or like he said, he does review all kinds of other vehicles, in the comments section. That's why we call this Garage Table Discussion. It's great to have a guest, but, you know, if you've got any questions or comments, put them down there, and Jimmy will chime in.
I definitely will.
Yeah. So, hey, we're going to wrap it up for today here at the Garage Table Discussion. Once again, I want to thank you guys for watching every Sunday at noon, and you can also catch us on YouTube, Jeff Black, BFP Dream Builder, and that way you can subscribe and get any of the new episodes that are coming up, or catch the old episodes. So, Jimmy, thanks again for coming in.
Thanks a lot, Jeff.
And we will catch you again next week on Garage Table Discussion.